time to do business. Again, welcome to Business Incorporated, and we have 25 minutes to give you updates from the world of business. Here's what we have prepared for you. Congratulations to Nigeria and South Africa exiting the Fat F grey list. And Tanzania is partnering with DRC to extend cross-border fiber network. The use of mercury in gold mining will soon be eliminated in Zimbabwe. Welcome to the program. I'm Ini John Mekwa, and we start as usual from what's going on in the oil prices, where prices fell more than 1% after U.S. and Chinese economic officials sketched out a trade deal framework, easing fears that tariffs and export curbs between the two world's top oil consumers could dent global economic growth. So looking at the numbers, it's changed from what we had earlier. So sentiment going this way and the other for this afternoon. In the morning, it was green, about 0.5%, but now we see 0.88% in the red for Brent, bringing the price to $65.35 a barrel. WTI is even deeper than that, 0.91%. At $60.94 a barrel. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said that U.S. and Chinese officials hashed out a substantial framework, is what he calls it, for a trade deal which would avoid 100% U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods and achieve a deferral of Chinese rare earth export controls in impending trade discussions. This week, Brent crude futures fell 0.88%, and we saw that following this sentiment seems to be different from what will happen. Meanwhile, in Iraq, the OPEC group's biggest oil producer, they are in negotiations over the size of its quota within its available capacity of 5.5 million barrels per day. This is according to the oil minister of that country, revealed it at an oil conference today. And gold prices fell nearly 2% as hopes of easing U.S.-China trade tensions lifted risk appetite for equities, while investors are awaiting major central bank meetings this week for rate cut cues. Look at the numbers. So we know that metals have been serving, gold especially, has been serving as a hedge for investors amidst the uncertainty, especially because of the trade talks or tariffs between U.S. and China. So now that it seems that nerves are being calm, we see exits from gold. So that's why we see this 1.3% down for spot gold, bringing the price down to $4,059.22. U.S. gold is also down 1.6%, $4,072.40 per ounce. Spot silver is down more than 1%. Also, the price at $47.96. Platinum is down 0.23% at $1,601.75. Palladium just escaped that red color, and we see it's gained 0.1% at $1,429.61. The U.S. and China, we know this week is that week, and we hope it doesn't change that talk that they are going to have in Asia. And then outside of that, Tanzania and the Democratic Republic of Congo, they've announced plans to extend a cross-border fiber optic network, and that's to enhance digital connectivity and regional integration. The collaboration seeks to strengthen internet infrastructure, improve data transmission speeds, and lower communication costs between the two countries. According to officials, the project will link Tanzania's national ICT broadband backbone with DRC's fiber network, supporting e-commerce, education, and public service delivery across the region. The initiative aligns with both governments' digital transformation agendas and the African Union's goal of creating a more interconnected and inclusive digital economy. Yes, that's good news that happened on Friday. Both Nigeria and South Africa have been taken off the grey list when the Financial Action Task Force, that's FATF, they met in Paris. The world's financial watchdog had good news for South Africa. The Financial Action Task Force, the global body that monitors financial integrity, has officially removed South Africa from the grey list. Experts say that the decision boosts investors' confidence, but they caution that the real test actually lies ahead keeping the system clean. Dr. Elna Moolman is Chief Economist at Standard Bank South Africa.
South Africa's removal from the Financial Action Task Force, or FATF's grey list, is a very positive development. It clearly demonstrates that government and the private sector can work together to address South Africa's challenges, because getting removed from this grey list required a broad range of interventions. We are, of course, also seeing similar progress in terms of other policy reforms where both government and private sector inputs are required. Initially, we saw that with addressing the electricity sector's challenges, and we're increasingly seeing that in addressing the logistics sector's challenges. If we can implement all of these growth reforms, it will be very positive from an economic growth rate perspective, and that would help us to reduce unemployment and to improve government's fiscal metrics. On its own, South Africa's removal from this grey list is positive, and it will boost sentiment and it will make it a little bit easier for investors to invest in South Africa. But it won't necessarily on its own immediately and materially boost economic growth. For that to happen, we also need to see progress with other policy reforms.
Yeah, similar story back here in Nigeria. Keeping the countries out of the list is the next job now. Now, still staying with South Africa, they've welcomed Zimbabwe's decision to lift the ban on maize imports, describing the move as a positive step towards enhancing food security and deepening regional trade cooperation within the Southern African Development Community. The South African Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development said that the decision would allow for greater cross-border grain trade, particularly as Zimbabwe continues to recover from successive droughts that have strained its domestic maize supply. Agricultural stakeholders in both countries also expect that the policy shift will stabilize maize prices and provide relief to food processors and livestock producers who are dependent on grain imports. Still in South Africa, that country is intensifying its efforts to phase out the use of mercury in gold mining as part of its commitment to the Minamata Convention on Mercury, which seeks to protect human health and the environment from harmful emissions. The Ministry of Environment, Climate and Wildlife said that the government is working with local miners, development agencies and environmental groups to promote mercury-free technologies and raise awareness about the dangers of mercury exposure. Officials note that the initiative aims to improve safety standards in artisanal and small-scale mining, which accounts for most of the country's gold output, but remains a major source of mercury pollution. And still in Zimbabwe, where gold exports surged by 71% so far this year to reach $1.93 billion. And that marks a major boost for the country's foreign exchange earnings, reaffirming the mineral's role as a key driver of economic growth. According to data from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, the sharp increase was fueled by higher global gold prices, improved production from both large and small-scale miners, curb smuggling. The mining sector, particularly gold, remains central to Zimbabwe's export portfolio, accounting for more than 40% of total export revenues this year. Government officials say ongoing policy reforms, including incentives for miners and investments in refinery capacity, have helped to improve transparency and output. However, caution that sustained gains will depend on addressing operational challenges such as erratic power supply, limited access to capital, and persistent currency instability. And then we are out of Zimbabwe, heading to Egypt, where the Central Bank and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Immigration, and Egyptian Expatriate Affairs, they've launched the Open Your Account in Egypt initiative in cooperation with the National Bank of Egypt and Bank Miss. This initiative is in line with the Egyptian state's vision to meet the needs of Egyptians working abroad and facilitate all services provided to them. Under this initiative, Egyptians working abroad can open a bank account with the NBE or Bank Miss by visiting the premises of the nearest Egyptian diplomatic mission or consulate to complete and sign the account opening form. The embassies of consulates will verify these forms, which will then be re-verified at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Egypt before being sent to the bank and NBE for account opening. Saudi Arabia is intensifying its presence in Africa's startup scene through a series of new investment commitments, the latest being a $250 million fund launched by the Mara Group at the 2024 Future Investment Initiative in Riyadh. Developed in partnership with Startup Bootcamp and Blend Financial Services, the fund targets growth stage African startups and pre-IPO financing, focusing on key markets such as South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, and Egypt, regions that continue to attract the majority of venture capital on the continent. The launch reflects Saudi Arabia's evolving investment strategy, one increasingly directed towards emerging market innovation rather than traditional extractive sectors. The initiative aligns with the Kingdom's Vision 2030, which prioritizes global economic diversification and technology-driven growth. Industry observers note that this type of growth stage financing fills a long-standing gap in Africa's investment landscape. All right, now while we continue with Business Incorporated on our other platforms for our DSTV viewers, we have to lead you to Anambra State, where ABGA continues, or the governor there, Governor Soludo, continues the campaign. This time he's heading to Onitsha North local government area for the rally, and the venue is Echima Primary School in Onitsha. But that's for our DSTV viewers. But if you want to continue watching Business Incorporated, just hop onto the next stream on YouTube and you'll be live here with us. And yes, continuing now, we head to the markets and see what numbers we have. Nigeria is recording its first reduction in a couple of sessions since last week. The market has been on a bullish run, but we see now a bit of retreat at intraday, 0.17% down, but it's not so much because you can see the market still holding on to the 155,000 level, which it hit on Friday, the last trading session. So the market is negative this afternoon for Nigeria. Also for Johannesburg, it's also down 0.45%, 109,950.40 for that market. Egypt is, however, brings some green color to the board as Egypt is positive this afternoon, 0.37% at 38,242.91. Nairobi closed very positive. It was a positive Friday, so this is Nairobi's share of that positive color that we had, 179.81 for Friday in Nairobi. Leaving Africa now, let's head to the Middle East, and we'll see a mixture, evenly mixed for Middle East. Dubai is negative 0.27%. Abu Dhabi, however, is on the flip side, 0.06. Saudi Arabia is positive, and Qatar comes back to the red color in Middle East. Moving over to the United States now, U.S. futures rose yesterday evening as investors are looking ahead. Yeah, it's going to be a great week. A widely expected interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve. That meeting is this week, and a raft of big tech earnings will also be shared today. So Dow Jones is positive, more than 1%. S&P is also positive. Nasdaq, yes, the optimism around investors earnings from the big tech guys, that's also driving the markets. And investors expect that the Fed will slash rates cut at the meeting, which starting on the 29th, particularly after the Bureau of Labor Statistics released cooler than expected inflation data last week, and slightly more than 96% of investors expect a deep rate cut to 375 to 400 basis points, while about 3% are betting on a reduction to 400 to between 400 and 425 basis points, according to Fed Watch. And moving over to Asia, the Nikkei is still looking really good. The Prime Minister there are still garnering a lot of positive sentiment into the market. So we see the Nikkei up 2.46%. So, you know, the first women have power. First female Prime Minister in Japan. A lot of positive sentiments following her in, and especially with the announcement of a stimulus that's supposed to deal with inflation, that also seems to be getting a positive attention from investors. So the Nikkei is up 2.46%. Kospi of South Korea follows to 2.5. Hang Seng is also positive. And then looking at other parts of the market, Shanghai as well as Nifty 50 of India, all positive. Japanese Prime Minister Senator Kaichi is expected to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump this week during that the same meeting where he's going to be meeting with the Chinese president. A strong expansion of the country's domestic demand will completely lift Japan out of its deflationary structural stagnation and make progress towards reducing the U.S. trade deficit, resulting in a win-win for both countries. That's the expectation from there. Well, let's still stay with the market, but now let's head to Europe and find out what's going on right there. We have Lars joining us. Hi, Lars. I trust your weekend was restful, but how are the investors behaving this afternoon? So I cannot hear you, Lars. Oh, okay, great. I couldn't hear you at the beginning. I can hear you now.
Okay, very good. You can hear me now.
Yes.
You had a lot of green here on the wall, and if only you had asked me an hour ago, I could have added some green, but by now Frankfurt has given up early gains. We're entirely flat right now, and that's despite actually some strong numbers. We got some strong numbers out from Porsche, better than expected, and we also got a much better than expected corporate confidence level out, with managers saying in a recent survey that while business isn't going very well these days, hope and optimism are up for next year. And, you know, Ini, that's all that counts. It seems to many investors 2025 is pretty much over anyway, and they're looking at what the new year might bring. One factor there, of course, trade, and you just alluded to it as well, with U.S. President Trump traveling all across Asia, making deals. It's too early, of course, to tell whether that will improve things or not.
Yeah, and we hope that they will improve things and it will be positive meetings, because we know it can go the other way too, last, but we don't want that. And then one of the most successful German companies as of late was defense contractor, and now they're looking at yet another big contract. What's this about? What's the details?
Yeah, certainly. Well, Rheinmetall is the biggest German defense contractor for two reasons. They've been doing really well over the past few years. There's obviously Russia's invasion and full-on war against Ukraine. Such an event, you know, cynical as it might sound, is obviously helping the business of defense contractors. But then there's also that second factor, as the US under Donald Trump distanced itself from Europe, even from NATO, and forced European countries to reevaluate their defense spending. Now, as part of military spending, the German government has ordered 40 so-called low Earth orbit satellites from Rheinmetall. Those are satellites that are flying relatively low and that use microwave technology to not only deliver precise pictures of objects up to 25 centimeters small, but to also deliver such pictures at night in total darkness or in bad weather, as that microwave method allows the satellite to be much more versatile. Rheinmetall is partnering with Finnish startup ICI, and that firm is seen as a global market leader in what is called synthetic aperture radar, and that is that system using those microwaves, so high definition results. The contract, like I said, 40 satellites, is said to be actually worth over 3 billion euros.
Yeah, so sounds like it's an important contract that could affect, you know, the economy. But from a military perspective, how important is this?
Well, it seems extremely important, especially considering this problem I've mentioned with the US not being such a reliable partner to the Western alliance anymore. We've seen this earlier this year in March when US President Trump refused to allow Ukraine access to American satellites data for a short period of time. That, we are hearing, had military heads in Europe panicking and apparently made it clear to them that they would need their own fleet up in space to have reliable data and access to that data at any time they needed it. Now, once this contract has been delivered in what seems to be 2 years, according to the plans, with 40 satellites, the German military would actually have one of the largest and one of the most modern satellite clusters up there. And that after not having been a big player so far. Currently, Germany has only 8 military satellites running, and some of them are actually 2 decades old. So this contract is seen as a game changer.
Game changer, and we hope it brings good game to the table. Thank you so much, Lars.
Thank you, Ini.
Let's head to the crypto space now. I think last week, a lot of people would agree, was one of the worst weeks for Bitcoin in recent times. So we see a steady recovery coming from that drop, that huge drop of last week. If you didn't buy in then, you might have missed an opportunity to get on board. I mean, Bitcoin went as low as, I think, 108,000 or less than that. So imagine if you bought in then, what would you have made at this time? If you bought at 108, so that means you would have made like 7,000 if you're able to get more Bitcoin. But anyways, in 24 hours, we see Bitcoin has gained more than 1%, bringing the price to 115,075.42. Ethereum, woo, has recovered the 4,000 level. So we see 4,146 right there, gained more than 2% in 24 hours. BNB, but not everyone has been able to get on board on the winning train at this time. XRP, TRK, Cardano, XLM, we see them, they're still in red. But the big guys have been able, I'm sure they'll drag the smaller guys, on board the green space in no time. Let's look at other stories. Also, Solana rebounded past 200,000 mark today in renewed buying pressure. Despite some traders taking profit, the 200,000 zone has served as a key battleground throughout the month, with repeated breakouts above 220 and subsequent pullbacks, confirming it as a crucial momentum pivot. Solana was trading around 204,000, up more than 5% in the past 24 hours and over the past week, according to data. And the token has gained over 10% across the last 4 trading seasons, recovering from last week's low of 177,000. Japanese fintech firm JPYC Incorporated has introduced the country's very first legally recognized yen-backed stablecoin. Yes, stablecoin is really making the news now. That marks a major step forward for regulated digital currency issuance in Japan. It's trading as JPYC. It began today, and the company has also launched its dedicated platform. It's JPYC EX, and that's supposed to manage token issuance and redemption. JPYC Incorporated became a registered fund transfer service provider with Japan's Financial Services Agency in August, ensuring full compliance with national regulatory standards. I mean, this is the conversation that we had today, showing how much traction stablecoin is getting. We had it earlier on Business Morning about having the Naira-dominated stablecoin. That was the conversation, and now we can see Japan is already doing that. So stablecoin seems to be the way to go now in the area of cryptocurrency, and we do hope that Nigeria will not be missing out of that. Another major story is, in a significant move, Zelle plans to enable international money transfers using stablecoins again. Zelle is doing this, and stablecoins, we know, a type of cryptocurrency pegged to traditional currencies like the US. So in Nigeria, of course, it's the one pegged to the US, but Japan, they've broken that now. We hope more countries will also follow suit. According to YSJ, the integration of stablecoins into Zelle's network is expected to enhance the speed and reliability of international money transfers by leveraging blockchain technology, and they aim to offer a more efficient alternative to traditional wire. A lot of people have discussed and part of what we discussed this morning, the cost of transfer and transaction across border can be discouraging. Even diasporans sending in money to their family here, the costs can be very discouraging when to use the traditional methods, and that's why it does seem like a lot of people are embracing the stable coin. So imagine if we had a stable coin pegged to the naira, what that would do. But we hope together, and as our guest in the morning said, that will also increase demand for the naira and reduce demand for dollar, and that will help our economy and help our naira. Yeah. Anyway, hope to have such conversations in the near future and see how it comes up. But that's it on Business Incorporated today. Thank you so much for being a part of it. It's just a new week, so we're just starting this journey. So tomorrow we'll have a bigger package for you. But it's all updates from the world of business. That's what we give you based on Business Morning and on Business Incorporated. I mean, John, because see you tonight for the stock market report. I hope that red would have gone off by then. Bye-bye.